It was a lovely May morning when I left the office. One right out of the bag. Blue sky, glorious sunshine. Just the day to be out in the country. Not the day to be going out to write a story about a missing child. But then, the weather's never right for that sort of story. At this stage, we didn't know very much about it. The police said the child was Jane Harper, 3 days short of her 9th birthday. She'd been missing for 24 hours from her home in Pendle Street, one of the poorer districts of Ormston. And that was about all. It was my job to follow up with details that would make the story worth reading in one way or the other. You can never tell with missing children. Sometimes they turn up in a couple of days with some relative. Other times, well, it's different. That's when you make the front page. When you don't want to. Missing adults are one thing. You can make all the inquiries and write the story and still be detached. But a missing child is different, particularly if you've kids of your own. There's so much emotion among so many people that you find yourself becoming involved in a way, and that doesn't always help the story. Policemen are the same, always a bit edgy and uncooperative when a child is concerned. My first call was the obvious one, on the parents. Not a visit to look forward to, usually, but these two were a little different somehow. There was a show of emotion, but underneath it was a remoteness, a lack of depth, almost as if they were too wrapped up in themselves to be really concerned for the child. They had little to tell me, apart from the bare details we'd already had from the police, and they didn't seem to want to talk, because I thought it was too much trouble. In inquiries like this, neighbours are usually the best bet, and this one was aching to talk. Probably because she wanted to see her name in print. Most of them do. It was a miserable story. Living next door to the Harpers, she heard all the rows and squabbles, the bickering between the parents. The father didn't want to work, the mother's only interests were television and bingo. Jane hadn't a decent rag to her back, she said. The child was bewildered by the constant rowing. In her view, it was no wonder she'd gone off. Bits and all, because a picture was beginning to come out of it, a picture of a lonely child. Where might she have gone to? Children have a knack of putting things into perspective when it comes to other children. After a few minutes' talk with a bunch of local kids, it soon became apparent that Jane had no real friends, that they'd never heard of any aunts or uncles, and that no one ever seemed to visit number 15 Pendle Street. It took a little time to get them chattering freely, but when I did get them going, there was no stopping them. Jane was shy, they said. She didn't talk very much and didn't join in their games because of the leg iron. She just sat by herself and watched. Disability, she couldn't run, and if they were chased, Jane was the one who was caught. Jane was again the odd one out. How can you go to parties when you don't have a party dress? How can you share sweets if you've no money to buy them? next day the weather was just as bad as it had been good the day before. A cold, dank, grisly day. And Jane Harper had been missing for 48 hours. Then there was a report that a woman had been seen with a child on the moors above the town. The description was sketchy, but the police were really worried now, and they were checking every lead. The inspector in charge of the search had promised to give journalists a press conference, but it was a waste of time. The police didn't have a line to go on. The only story we could write was one of mounting anxiety among the men, police and volunteers, who spread across the harsh, wet moor, searching for something they hoped they wouldn't find. Other things were happening too, of course. The inspector told us that uniformed police and CID men were carrying out an intensive search of the town. Every shed and derelict building was being checked. The canal was to be dragged. Door-to-door inquiries were being made, but so far without any result. He asked us to appeal for information from the public. As he said, someone, somewhere, must have seen the child. The police had to find them, and quickly. I wasn't attracted by the idea of following my colleagues who were trying to pick up human interest stories from the searchers. We had an agency man there. If anything was found, we'd know about it soon enough. I thought I'd go back to the town and talk to the kids again. Then, something about the sergeant's manner made me wait. There was a radio message, which I couldn't hear. Then, a hurried consultation. I played a hunch. In my job, it's important to try to steal a march on the opposition. None of the other journalists was about, so I followed the inspector back to the police station. Several hours went by before I got all the details in focus. It seems a boy had come forward with the first positive information since Jane had been reported missing. He'd been frightened of talking before because he was on the wrong side of the law. He'd been trying a spot of breaking and entering into the Bowles Pavilion, as luck would have it, and he had seen Jane. Finally, his worry overcame his fear of the consequences to himself, and he volunteered his story, with the usual insistence, of course, that he hadn't done any damage and had taken nothing from the pavilion. The window was open, he said, and the temptation had been too great for him. To the window, only to find that his escape route was cut off by the presence of a man who had taken a seat right outside. He looked around for another way out and realized there wasn't one. He went back to the window and saw Jane. He said he was surprised to see her talking to the man because he knew she was shy with strangers. The man had offered her a suite and they left the park together. When the inspector came out, I tried to find out about the boy, but it was the wrong moment to detain him, because the police knew the man concerned and where they could find him. An odd sort of recluse, a lonely man who lived in a derelict farmhouse just outside the town. No police record, no trouble before, but he hadn't a job, and he was odd. Do policemen pray for children? Sometimes, I think. And this must surely have been one of those times.